Welcome to Be Now for October 24th. I'm Don McLeod, and joining me is Fazell Khan. The reason we didn't have the promo update or a whole slide and everything else is because Faz forgot to do it today, so we didn't get going.
No, I didn't forget, Don. I
You ran
mailed
out
it
of
in
time.
basically. You're lucky to have me here today. Actually, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have you every week. So basically, we're gonna wing it because there's a lot of topics that we can talk about. A lot of things that were going
There's
on in
too much
Brampton
stuff going
Huge.
on, Don, everywhere.
Yeah,
I wake up and watch my Twitter feed. It's like, oh, let me go back to sleep.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's an option as well. But so we're gonna hop right into it. We're gonna pick up from where we did last week in regards to political parties. We said we were going to talk about the polling numbers for Justin Trudeau regarding Pierre Poilievre in the federal election. I saw a poll today. They said something like 94% of the pollers were going to vote for Pierre Poilievre and 7% or something, 6% was Justin Trudeau. I would love to know where they get these polling numbers because that's just a ridiculous polling number in this scenario. I don't know what these guys are doing, but polling 2 years out from an election and giving numbers like that, that's just ridiculous.
Well, especially when you're never going to vote for Justin or Pierre, you're voting for the local candidates. So what they should be asking, are you going to vote Liberal, Conservative, NDP, not a specific leader, because it never shows up on the ballot, and you're going to get some name you've probably never seen before as your candidate. So these polls, as we both say, are useless right now. I think they're driven by the polling companies and maybe the parties that are aspiring to be in the leadership positions, but it's useless.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Conservative Party or something like Pierre Poilievre on the federal level, I go to I want Angus Reid to do a poll. Here's a bunch of questions that I want you to do the polling numbers in. I'll pay you to do this because that's what they do. And it's like, give them these things that lead back psychologically to the thing that you're going to have, and you're going to get the voting numbers. I think it's 1 year anniversary today that Patrick Brown was reelected as mayor along with the current council. I think he posted something like that out today. But I remember when he was running. Did you remember the polls that were put out by Nick and
the polls put out by the polling company run by the campaign manager of one of his opponents.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And then it was like, Nikki Carr's like, she's like 10, 20 points ahead of Patrick Brown. And we're like, there is no way. So polling numbers at this stage are a ridiculous scenario. But, I see some that they want Justin Trudeau to step down and Christina Freeland. But another one that seems to be making a name for himself these days is Sean Fraser. He was in town just recently about the housing incentive that is bypassing the provincial government to municipalities, going directly to municipalities. We covered that a little bit, and it was quite a big number.
I was really impressed by him. I think he's flying under the radar right now, but he's really in a position. Anytime you have $4 billion to hand out as part of the Housing Accelerator Fund, you're going to be a popular person. People are going to want to meet with you, especially municipal officials. You're going to get a lot of photo ops, and he can handle himself. I heard him in Parliament. Was it today or yesterday? And I see him. When Justin Trudeau was here last week, we were there, Don, and Sean Fraser gave a speech, no notes, no repetition, very eloquent, to the point.
He was very good. I was very impressed. The first time seeing him,
and I was looking. I forget who I told this to. I said he's too tall to be a politician because all the other politicians look really small beside him. So he's a tall guy. And I think that's an advantage for him, actually.
Yeah, no, he did very well. At that press conference, as you say, he had no notes. He was like, it was off the top of his head, as Justin Trudeau did as well. But at the same time, like he was right to the point. There was no ums or ahs. He was talking about what he was talking about, how it was going to benefit municipalities, how many homes were built. Like he had the numbers, he had everything else. He's well prepared. I know before he went to that press conference, he was doing a video, a self-promotion video talking about I'm in here in Brampton. I'm sure if you follow him, you've seen that video that he put out. But he was doing his own promo, which, you know what? I haven't seen a lot of cabinet ministers or MPs doing their own thing. And he was doing it quite effectively.
Yeah, I think he's a rising star in the party. And if Justin drops out between now and whenever the next election is called, I think he's going to be right up there.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, he's, if he keeps doing the way he's doing or going the way he's going, he's doing a good job. He's raising his profile as well. So,
Yeah. So we got a
um,
Facebook user, Don, and put a comment in there that says yesterday was a 1 year anniversary,
okay, yesterday,
I guess, of the election. I think that's, I don't know.
October.
Anyways,
Yeah.
it's either yesterday or today. By the way, you can watch the show on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, and also our Facebook group. If you watch it from our Facebook group, there's some technical reasons why your name won't show there. It'll say Facebook user. So you can watch it from our Facebook page, and it wouldn't say that, or YouTube. You can't comment on Twitter. There's some background information for anybody who cares.
All right. Okay. So our next topic, I know you wanted to talk about the NDP MPP that got basically censored out of caucus and out of the Ontario
Censored or
legislature.
censured is probably both the same, right? She can't talk at this point.
Right.
Well, as part of her party. Well, you and I probably disagree on this, Don, because I see what you tweet in the mornings, and I don't like it, to be honest. Yeah, I think it was a terrible decision to boot her out of the NDP. I go on my Twitter, and I've never voted NDP. I typically vote Liberal, although if Patrick was the Conservative leader, Patrick Brown, I would vote Conservative. And all I got on my feed was I'm getting out of the NDP. The only reason I joined was for your progressive, blah blah blah, and you're not very progressive. I just think it was a terrible decision. And anybody who believes the narrative coming out that Sarah Jama made anti-Semitic comments really needs to look at her comments. It's not anti-Semitic to not say to avoid saying Hamas is a terrorist group.
No, but at
Everything
the
else she
same,
said was valid, but what the controversy is she never acknowledged the October 7th attack by Hamas and the 1,400 people.
no, at the
You
same
know,
time,
politically, you need to do that, right?
yeah, but at the same time, she's calling Israel an occupying force, colonial force. It's all that's bullshit. Sorry, but
Well,
that's
that's where we disagree, Don,
yeah, I
because
know.
a lot of places, a lot of people call it an open air prison. If you can't come and go as you will.
Well,
If
the
someone else
Gaza
is
Strip
controlling,
basically has been since 2005. That's been administered by Palestinian government. That's not under Israeli rule. That's under Hamas, and
well,
they
yeah,
had
Hamas
elections
is
since
the
2005. And if they wanted to spend money on building up that Gaza Strip into a little bit developing
you're
the
watching too much
infrastructure
Western.
rather than building tunnels underneath to supply arms and
You're
everything
wa- you're
else to
what
Hamas. I mean, or Hamas. That's a big deal, right?
you're watching too much Western media, Don.
Oh,
I've given up. I've given up. I personally, I can't say I know the situation very well, but all I see now is when is children dying. Whenever I see children dying, the grown-ups are doing a terrible job, right? The people who are elected
yeah.
are
Whether it
doing
be
a terrible
anywhere in
job.
the world, including
Yeah.
how many countries in Africa and like Yemen, and I mean there's plenty of places around the world. This is just an incendiary hotspot that's been this one big boiling pot for so many centuries, basically over the time frame. Back in my, like I said last week, 1967 war. It goes back quite a ways. I mean, but there seems to be no
At the end of the
solution.
day, Don, at the end of the day, the half of the Palestinian population weren't born when the last peace
Oh,
process was taking
absolutely,
place, right?
100%. Yeah,
And probably another 30% of them were too young to even remember
yeah,
what happened. So you've replaced. There's a whole new generation there, and we keep going back to what happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago,
yeah,
2,000 years ago. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We need to figure out how to live together. And this preoccupation with land, even here, right? What was the housing minister talking about? Is developing land,
yeah,
land, 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 right?
yeah.
And it's unfortunately we're locked in on this planet and we got to live together, and we can't keep building on land because we need to leave some for the trees and the rivers and recreation, um, and we keep fighting about it. That which gives me a little hope for the future. You and I are old enough, Don, that another generation, and we're probably might not even be here, And how far have we gone other than fancy computer technology? Really, as a civilization, how far have we gone?
Well, civilization is one thing, but human is another. I mean, it's, if you take a look at the evolvement from humans from the time we basically walked upright to now, our basic emotions haven't changed. We still have, rage, jealousy, anger. I mean, these are emotions that we can't seem to control. At the same time, technology, as you said, is advanced rapidly. I mean, we've done things from the time to the wheel to now that we've, never been able to do. We've been on the moon, exploration to Mars and Saturn, and so on and so forth. But we still have those basic human instincts that have never changed, right? And that is the problem. That it's not the technology;
Yeah.
it's the basic humanity
Well, and
in
also
regards to.
the how much further along could we be to solving hunger and poverty if we just work together rather than, I go on Twitter, and the problem I have with Twitter is everybody's making statements to divide us. There's very few people saying, "Hey, let's
And
figure out
that,
a
and
way
that
forward."
seems to be, yeah, and that seems to be the growing mantra these days. I mean, explain to me why people would rip off posters that people put up of the Israelis that were kidnapped by Hamas, rip them off the wall, which has been going on, right? Why would you go in front of um, uh, a Jewish restaurant in downtown Toronto, waving the Palestinian flag, saying, "We got to erase them all. We got to erase them
Yeah,
all." I
I
mean,
there's no justification for that, but you know
no,
what people do when they're in mob mentality with other people and they're young and they see somebody that they can blame, they'll go over there, right?
yeah, well.
Um, like,
That's the older you get, the supposedly you're supposed to get smarter, but I've seen a lot of older people that are acting really stupid these days.
yeah, yeah, and I think all of our mental health is being affected because I don't know how much time you spend on this stuff, Don. I don't think you can avoid it on Twitter, anyways. I think
No, no,
Instagram
you
and
can't.
Facebook you
No.
can avoid it, but on Twitter, oh my God,
Oh,
it's just nonstop.
yeah. And I
And
agree. I mean, you take a look at stuff, but now you've got the universities. You got two factions, and it's it's all over, and it seems to be now with the social media, it seems to be elevated to another level. That what, once it gets to that level, there's another level on top of that, and it just seems to
yeah.
mount continually on a daily basis,
And
and people are.
that's the big difference from 9/11 is if we had social media tools back when we had 9/11, I don't think any of us would be here anymore. We would have started World War III back then, right? And
Well, I grew up in the 60s and 70s through the Vietnam War, and then all the social
imagine if
unrest
we
and
had
everything
social
else.
media then, Don. Oh my
Oh,
God.
that would have been, I mean, everyone looked at the nightly news and Walter Cronkite and looking at the footage coming back for Vietnam from the independent photographers and the independent news outlets that came back with this stuff, but they had to come back. It was not directly, I'm on the battlefield right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a totally different thing, and it seems to be ramping up. It gives a platform to a lot of crazy people. That's what it does.
Well, not only crazy people, I see all sorts of professors, lawyers who should know better than commenting. But if you, let's say you're Jewish and you're some kind of professional, I think you have to do something, right? As somebody who is probably on an elevated stature, whether you're a university professor, you kind of have to. And what are you going to say? You got to kind of stand with your people, right? And the same thing with anybody on the Arab or the Muslim or the Palestinian side. And it shouldn't be like that, right? It's like we live in Canada. We should not be picking sides, but I know it's hard. Um, and then the big bad USA always is in the middle of stuff, and everything they say gets amplified. And I think from the Muslim community side, it just seems very one sided.
Yeah, I mean, the United States, I mean, they get blamed for a lot of stuff. Nobody blames Russia. Nobody blames China. The United States basically is always the one to blame. But basically, when it comes time to get aid, international aid, who is one of the biggest international aid providers in the world? It's not Russia. It's not China. It's the United States.
Right, but look what's happening in Gaza. Yes, aid will eventually get there to whoever survives what's going on, but and it'll be counted as aid, but it should never have happened, right?
Well, you know, and I know that, but at the same time, when you have an organization like Hamas who's dedicated, their number one mantra is to wipe Israel or all Israelis off the face of the earth. How can you negotiate with someone that's that? It's like trying to negotiate with Hitler in 1939.
Right, but
Uh,
for 911, if we look at how the American response was for 911, yeah, they made lots of mistakes. So don't tell me that Israel and the U.S. are not making the same mistakes now. If you want to get rid of the terrorists, you go after directly the terrorists. You don't have kids who lose their parents who are now going to grow up and become terrorists themselves, right?
yeah, but once the terrorists are embedded in that area and basically they've embedded themselves into the fabric of society, it becomes very hard to separate one from another. And that's the problem. But we're not going to solve it here
Well,
today.
and,
But
well, and
yes,
then the solution right now is the bomb. And if there's collateral damage, there's collateral damage, and that's where I think there's a big disagreement in the world.
yeah, well, I mean, it's happened in
I
every
don't
world
think there's
war.
disagreement
Yeah,
in Hamas needs to go away.
yeah.
Hamas needs to end.
But
But
it
when I
needs
hear
to
the
be,
rhetoric, oh, it needs to be, I
yeah.
forget what the terminology is. How are you going to do that? First of all, I don't even know how you know somebody is in Hamas.
Well, that's the thing. But at the same time, you know, you have other countries in the area like Egypt, Jordan, Iran, who are basically financing Syria. And it's like, where's their
Jordan isn't
responsibility?
financing, right?
Where's their
Iran, obviously.
responsibility? Right?
Well, so Palestinians can't even get out of Gaza now. They cannot get out.
Well, of
Even if
course
another
not.
country opens the door, they cannot get out.
Well, because Egypt, they were going to actually broker a deal for a safe corridor, and Egypt said no.
Israel bombed the opening to Egypt.
Even before that fast. But anyway, regardless, it's like
Right, but
two
that's why
sides.
we go back. They're
Yeah.
living in
Right.
like if you wanted to leave Ontario, nobody should stop you, right? You live in a
Well,
free country. The Palestinians
absolutely.
are not free.
Absolutely, but at the same time, we're not basically that situation. If Quebec decides to separate, which I lived through that area in the 70s and early 80s when René Lévesque was talking. Well, they're still talking about it now, but when they talk about separating, I mean, they wanted to have, you know, border closures. They wanted to use Canadian money. They wanted to, you know, all these things would change in a heartbeat if something like that happened. Alberta wants to separate. What do you think? Alberta's going to separate, and then they're going to not set up their own checkpoints and so on and so forth. Of course they are, right? So
Well,
we
if
we,
you
we
are a Canadian student who doesn't live in Quebec and you go to McGill,
yeah, well
you got to
that could be a
pay.
problem as well. Yeah,
That's ridiculous what's going
yeah,
on in this country, right?
yeah. Well,
Those
Quebec.
small little things. It's like why? Why are we doing this?
Well, you know what? When René Lévesque got into power, that's when a lot of Quebecers decided to move from Quebec into Ontario, and that's
Hmm.
what made Toronto a big booming city. Because a lot of Montrealers, Sun Life was the first company that pulled out of Quebec, and that was a big, big move because it's a major company. They said, "Screw it, the PQ's in power. We're going to Toronto and Ontario," and then a lot of companies followed as well. And for Quebec, there was a long time, 10 or 15 years, where their economic situation plummeted because there was a lot of people leaving, including big corporations taking not only their corporate but their people as well too with them. So I mean, there are repercussions, and those repercussions are something that have to be dealt with. What are you sinking, or you're going up, or you're playing with your table, eh?
I got a standing desk now.
Yeah. Okay. Don't be playing with it during this is not the time to be playing with this. Anyway, what's the other topic you wanted to talk about, Faz?
I'm just very tired. I need sleep,
You're very
and
tired.
I can't wait for this format of the show to be over because I don't like it. I don't like it anymore, Don. And we're not getting any feedback on what people want. We're the only live stream in Brampton that's only
Basically,
talking about
yes.
Brampton, right? I know a lot of the ethnic media does live stream, but they Indian politics, by the way, is a whole other thing going on as well, right?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. It's like, I see Pierre Polyev was saying that Justin Trudeau screwed up things in the Indian relationships, and I'm thinking, wait a second, we had a Canadian citizen that was killed by a foreign country on our Canadian soil, and you're blaming Trudeau for that?
Yeah, I would love to hear some of his MPs who are of the Sikh faith kind of respond to this because I don't know what they're doing sitting there and letting Pierre dig a hole for himself.
Well, he
But
can
hey,
dig.
if you want to
Yeah,
dig a hole, dig a hole.
yeah.
Will you need help with your new show? And we always need help, Karen. We always need help.
We can get Kieran on
We
to talk
probably need
about.
help today on this show still.
Well, psychologically, yeah, Faz is burnt out. He's at the end of his rope, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, going forward, yeah, sure, will you know, we can talk about different segments and stuff. I know Karen is actually, she's not a trustee for the Catholic School Board, but she does volunteer, I think, on one of the Catholic schools.
Her kid's school, and then she works at a university. So
Yeah.
she can't say anything either, right? Otherwise,
Oh
she's
yeah.
getting a card.
Oh,
She
okay.
picks on, and the university she goes to, I know which side she has to be on, right, Karen?
You know, I'm a co-chair. Co-chair of what?
Not like a school
Oh,
board. School board.
oh, school board co-chair. Okay. Yes, no comment. Man, she's going to be a good host. No comment. No
That
comment.
every Canadian should take that attitude with what's going
No
on.
comment.
Yeah.
Parent council. Okay. Parent council.
Okay, Don. So what's going on in your life?
You know, I was biking today because it was a gorgeous day, and it's supposed to be in the next 3 or 4 days is going to be great. So I took my bike up to the newly opened that Clairville area, like the top part where we did the shoot with Rod. It was pretty good, but you know what I noticed a lot of a lot of the intersections where you go through some of their curbs, they're just high curbs. They haven't actually blended them down so that if you're riding a bike, it's like you got to
It's
stop.
very. I can't. In my mind right now, I can't think of any curb or of any intersection on a trail that goes through a street where the curb has been cut. You go to Mississauga, I would say most of their curbs are cut. So this is a big problem that we need fixed. To me, it's something that could be fixed really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, like I went through Jordan Park and stuff today to get down to that area. But you know, the crosswalk is down the other way, but if you're riding a bike, it's not a big deal. But yeah, it's and even a couple of I was up. Where was I going? I was going up. I forget where up by Gore Road, and the shoulder on that road for biking is real. Like it's got to be maybe a foot and a half, that shoulder, as you're going up to that area, and it's like it's really tight. So
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know, if you want to do more biking, you
we
gotta
got
have
a
the
lot more
infrastructure.
work. We got a lot more work for our biking infrastructure in this city, and in and doing it in ways that's both safer and doesn't cause drivers to get upset with you.
Yeah, I mean that's a big part. I mean, you know, people talk about, well, I don't see any bikers in the winter time. Well, you know what? You know, there's a situation where if the bike lanes are free and you can use it, I mean, it's not a big deal, right?
And if they're cleared and not full of
Yeah,
ice and stuff, there's a
yeah.
lot of things here. But Montreal seems to know how to do it. So
Hey, Montreal, yeah, they've got more bike lanes going on, and you know, it's they can do it. You can do it. Castlemore and Goreway, yeah, exactly. That I was traveling today actually on the bike, and it's kind of tight going down and coming back the other way. So yeah, they've been doing that construction for a while. I think it's I don't know when it's going to be finished, but anyway, that
well,
is
that
a tight
project
area.
maybe there's a reason why it's gone down to one lane is because people drive too fast in that area. So this is one way of slowing them down.
No, they're doing construction right up the top, sort of thing, right?
It's Santa.
Santa November
Santa's
18th.
on our Facebook group because it says Facebook user. Yes. So we have Santa Claus parade Saturday, November 18th at 5 p.m. So
Where is the like last year they had it going along Bramley Road. I think it's the same this year. I haven't taken a look at the route officially. I saw some of the signs up, but I think that is the same route they're going to take. It was from Chinguacousy Park up to Bramley and over North Park. I think is that.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
Santa, you need to come back on November 1st. No, November 12th, because we got Halloween to go through, we got Remembrance Day, and then we can start talking about Christmas parade.
Yeah. And I don't want to. I don't want to. Oh, it's the same route. Okay.
Yeah.
So that they start from, I think it's just after or before Chinguacousy Park Fest. You were down there last year, right?
You got to know when you're going there because I was down there early because we were getting some video and stuff, and I had full access. And then I went to the other end, thinking I can come back, and then they stopped me, and then I made some phone calls, and next thing you know, I had a police escort. I don't think that I could expect that this year.
Well, it's funny because I live at Brampton in North Park, pretty close to that area. So I just walked. I just walked over, and I'm ready.
This year, I'll probably bring my bike, and because I got one of these done, an
Yeah,
action cam,
yeah.
and I got the bike attachment. I just haven't figured it out. I haven't even turned this thing on, to be honest.
Oh,
And see,
really?
I've even branded it now.
Excellent.
So if it gets lost,
What is that? Is that in 4K? It records in 4K?
yeah. And this is look at this. It's a look how
Selfie
long this
stick?
thing is.
Okay.
So I can get into Santa's face from the ground probably.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so another toy to play with. We could have used the drone, but somebody crashed the drone.
By the way, I don't think Bramley's too close to the airport to be using the drone. So
Well, we can keep it like very low off the ground. You know what I mean?
you both made a nice list this year. Ho ho
Oh,
ho.
ho. Nice list, eh? Does that mean we get like chocolates and all that kind of good stuff? Hey, how come did Santa Claus throw any candy canes last year? Did he throw candy canes from the?
I don't recall.
I don't
No,
recall either. I don't think he.
maybe that's been banned now because people complain getting hit by candy canes in the head.
Who complained about
You know what's
that?
going on with this generation, Don.
Who complained about getting hit with a candy cane? Man, oh man, that's gonna be some fierce
Yeah.
person.
So
Yeah.
we got a few more minutes. We're actually trying to stick to the 30 minutes. I know
Yeah.
we're just rambling here, but did I talk last week on the show about a new study that came out that says why do we have all these mental health challenges with young people, and why is it
No,
increasing? And not just we
no,
didn't talk about it. So
no.
a study came out, and the mental health of young people have been declining since the 60s. It's not just the pandemic, and it's not just because we're noticing it more and we can talk about it more. It's actually gone down. They've done studies to measure this, and the reason is they're saying is because we don't give our kids enough opportunities with other kids outside and not under adult supervision.
Yeah, I
So,
agree with that.
like riding a bike to school is a perfect way to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I did that as a kid. I would ride my bike everywhere. I'd come back right before the sun went down. I would ride by creeks and stuff. I think parents are just too scared to do that stuff. Now,
Well,
I didn't even let my kids do that.
here's the thing that I see every day because I'm close to a school. I see parents driving their kids to school and picking them up after school. Whatever happened? Like, because number one, if you're a kid, right, the biggest part of your day is going to school and coming back from school, interacting with your friends, doing stuff, getting into trouble, maybe not getting into trouble, but interacting on a one-on-one with your own age group and talking about things that you wouldn't never talk to your parents about.
Yeah.
They have eliminated that crucial role for kids. And I remember growing up doing
The
that.
only place I kind of see that happening now is kind of more middle school and high school kids in the malls, right? They go to the mall, but then they get themselves into trouble, and it's like you got to get like natural environments
Yeah,
where you're
absolutely.
actually
100%.
going somewhere. You have a purpose in mind. And Karen agrees. Karen's a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and failing is a big part of growing up, and we don't let our kids fail enough.
I'm just before we're going to go. This is for Santa Claus. I heard that the Girl Guides are not participating in the Santa Claus parade because they want to keep the religion
Yeah.
out of the Santa Claus parade. I heard that, and I'm thinking,
What do you have to say, Santa?
well, not only that, where in the Bible is Santa Claus? Because I read the Bible and I don't see one thing in the Bible talking about Santa Claus. So how can it be religious?
So you got two big questions, Santa, to answer. Is
Yeah.
what does this parade have anything to do with Christmas? And what's going on with the Girl Guides? Did you do something?
I can't believe that.
And
It's
we're
like,
gonna have to wait till next week to get the answer.
oh, I actually heard someone else saying that a couple of schools canceled their Halloween parties because they didn't want, the whole devil thing. And I'm thinking, this is why kids have mental health problems, because you have adults or parents who've got an IQ of about 10 and they're putting this stuff forward.
I
It's
used to go trick or
ridiculous.
treating by myself. like parents should not be with their kids unless, why do you have your 1-year-old out trick or treating anyways, right? That's stupid. If
Well,
a kid
when
can walk and go door to door, at least down your street, let them do
yeah,
it.
yeah. And it's like that's what we used to do. I see parents now with kids, and it's like I did not want my parents to go trick or treating with me. I wanted to go with my buddies,
Yeah.
right?
Anyways, now we're sounding like two old men, which we are, and
Well,
it's
we are.
over time. Yeah.
Yes.
See you guys.
Anyway, okay, we've said enough for tonight. You know what? We'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks for joining in. Hopefully, next time, Faz
I'll
his
even
mental
dress
health.
up a little bit more. I even noticed I'm wearing a
Yeah.
t-shirt.
Well,
It
your
says
mental health
Brandon.
will be better next Tuesday, and you'll be able to put a little format together with an intro. How's that?
Maybe people like this format better. Let me
I don't
know.
know. We'll
I
see.
do. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.